Sony has been making major headlines over the announcement that they will not, I repeat, Sony will not have a presence at E3 2019. This does not seem to be a Nintendo-type situation either, where they're just not holding a live conference or something. We're talking not showing up at all. No conference, no booth, nothing. And this will mark the first time in a 24-year history that Sony skips out on the event entirely. So of course, people are shocked. This isn't normal, and they want to know what's going on. Well, this comes off the heels of them also announcing there will be no PlayStation experience this year either, in 2018. Which means we don't even know the next time we'll see Sony put on some major event over the next year. If at all, nothing's guaranteed. And this all seems extremely peculiar because at this past E3, they didn't even announce any new games. All we got were gameplay demos for titles that we already knew about. Don't they have anything else coming? Is the greatness over? No. I think it is becoming more and more clear that, as people like me have been saying, these next-gen systems are coming sooner rather than later, and not only that, but sooner than many people think, or maybe even want. And that's why I think we haven't seen much from either Microsoft or Sony lately. Xbox just had that XO18 event, and while they had the blockbuster announcement of them acquiring Obsidian, they didn't announce any new games there either. I think it's obvious at this point. Hopefully it is. Hopefully this will put to death the comments like, oh, the PS5 isn't coming out until 2021 at the earliest. Yeah, okay, it's looking like that'll be a long few years, considering these recent announcements. Because yeah, at least I believe this is all to make way for a big PlayStation 5 reveal event. I would assume sometime next year, just like I said in the video I made when they canceled this year's PSX. Things are just getting too quiet for the next-gen systems to still be several years away. But here's the thing, a new console announcement isn't necessarily a reason to cancel an E3 showing. Like I said at the beginning, this will be the first time in 24 years there is no Sony presence at E3. Did they release any other consoles in the past 24 years? I think so, maybe a few. I'm sure they had a few off years as well where there wasn't much to announce, but they still showed up. I think the act of them skipping out on E3 says more about E3, honestly, than it does about Sony. The event just isn't as necessary as it once was. It's another thing I've been saying for a long time. In the old gaming magazine days, before the internet, yeah, it made a lot of sense to just have one mega event where all the big news would break at once. People could run around covering everything and then break the news to us via their magazines and that. In today's world where they can stream these presentations live and directly to us, the consumers, yeah, we don't need that as much. Nintendo was really the first one to sort of break away with the directs. Maybe that's the route Sony's going to start going too, do their own sort of direct deal. That'd be awesome. I don't think Sony is necessarily going to do a clean break or anything here. You know, I think they'll be back to E3. But it's becoming more and more obvious that you don't have to blow your load at E3 anymore. You can do these things on your own terms and have all eyes on you when you do so. I think that's something that's so great about the directs. You know, Nintendo has all these Smash Directs, and it just builds and builds up so much hype around the game. It's something you just don't get with anything else. And I've even said I assume any new console announcements wouldn't be made at E3 anyway. All the current gen consoles, Xbox One, PS4, and Switch, all had unique events outside E3 to announce them. So I've been assuming that trend would continue. So given this new information, what do we think the course of things will be for Sony and the PS5? Before, I was considering the system reveal being in February again, just because that's where it was for the PS4. Now that they're skipping E3 though, if they're going to do a reveal next year, I don't think it'll be early in the year, because if it was, I think you'd still go to E3, right? Do the reveal event in, say, a February that's a bit more broad and focused on the console, then come to E3 to focus on games, then release the system around the holidays. If they're skipping E3, I'm thinking this big reveal comes after, and that's why they feel like showing up at E3 would be a waste of time. Could be early the next year, 2020, same deal, reveal early in the year, go to E3 2020 to talk about games, then release for the holiday. Or I think perhaps next year, 2019's PSX, That'd be a pretty good way to bring back the whole event with a bang and sell it out. Let everyone know you're going to unveil the next system there, and they'll flock from all around the world to see it. So I think that's a possibility as well. Bring back PSX at the end of 2019 to unveil the console and then build hype through 2020 up until launch. Is the system even for sure going to come out around the holidays? The standard November we typically see. I mean, the Switch just had a March release, and it did pretty good. And that would be a surprise. Like, imagine this. Imagine if they did the PSX thing at the end of 2019, and again, that's where they do the unveiling event for the PS5, and they close it out with saying the system is actually coming out in first quarter 2020 or something like that. That would be pretty wild. Yeah, that's probably not as likely, but again, with the Switch, certainly not impossible. Actually, that would be very similar to the Switch's launch if they did a PSX reveal and then launched in the first half of 2020. If you remember, the Switch was the NX. We had no idea what the system was until October of 2016. That's when they dropped that first look at the Switch trailer and we learned what it actually was. And then the system released the following March. So while maybe not as likely, there is a precedent for doing a release like that as well. So yeah, given the fact that they're now officially skipping E3 next year, when do you think they'll have the big reveal event for the PS5, and when do you think it'll release? Let me know in the comments. I'd be really curious to know. I'm sticking with my predictions from before about the games like Last of Us 2 and Death Stranding. I still think those are going to be bridge-type games that show up on both the PS4 and the PS5. They may be labeled as, quote, enhanced editions or something. Like The Last of Us 1, in fact, came out in 2013, I think, on the PS3. Then the remastered version came out in 2014. Gotta love that. A year turnaround between the original release and the remaster. So I don't think if those games get release dates, they're going to be much to go off of in terms of when we may see the next system come. Because Death Stranding, I think, actually may get a release date at this upcoming Game Awards. That game has been a staple of the event for a few years now. Jeff Keighley has a mega crush on Kojima, and it sounds like they're close to done with it. So I don't want people to be like, oh, if it's coming, you know, X day 2019 or 2020, that must mean that's when the PS5 comes out. No, I wouldn't read anything into it like that. But yeah, that's what I think. The PS5 is going to be the main focus going forward. There's probably little to talk about still with the PS4, and they want to announce it on their own terms at a time where the whole world is watching them and only them. And the time frame they're looking at probably just conflicts with E3. And that was the big complaint, remember, about their showing at E3 this year. It was a bunch of stuff we've already seen before, so I guess they could come and show us more Last of Us 2, more Death Stranding, Days Gone, etc. at E3 next year, but I think the gaming community would really let them have it if they did something like that. If that is the case, it's only going to have a negative effect, so yeah, why not skip it entirely and send everybody in a tizzy as they are now? I think this is actually positive PR right now. I mean, everyone's just freaking out, you know, oh my god, what is Sony doing? They canceled PSX, they're not coming to E3, you know, what's next? This is probably the best option, all things considered. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on Sony skipping out on E3 2019 in the comments. Do you think it's a big deal? Do you think it's because of a new console announcement coming? I guess it's not 100% guaranteed. But if you do, what do you think is going to be that time frame in terms of when they do the big unveiling announcement event for the new system, and then when will it actually be released? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of Sony calling in sick for E3 next year. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter @JohnnyZakari, and join my Discord, Shy Guy and Friends, linked to both in the description below, and as always, thanks for watching.